7.8 practice, day 2. We're going to do these problems here. Okay, so number 18 here, we have equal degrees. That means I have to divide. And remember, leave a space there for those missing terms. Okay, so how many times is x to the third going to x to the third? 1 time. And that would be x to the third minus 3x squared plus 2x. And remember how we draw the line and change the sign. Okay, so those cancel. I'll have 3x squared minus 2x plus 2. Okay, and that is our remainder. We have that divided by our divisor here. Okay, and that's the part that we have to simplify out. Okay, so we have our 3x squared minus 2x plus 2 divided by this. Okay, so to look at this, we have to take this denominator here and factor it out. So first I'm going to factor out an x, and then factor out this. Okay, so I know this is going to have to separate into, we have linear factors here, some number over x plus some number over x minus 2 plus some number over x minus 1. Okay, so we have those terms there that we have to use. So let's multiply by x and x minus 2 and x minus 1. If I multiply that through, I'm left with 3x squared minus 2x plus 2 is equal to a times x minus 1 times x minus 2 plus b times x minus 1 plus c times x minus 2. Okay, so now we got to put some numbers in here. So let's take x equals, let's put it 0. Okay, so if I put a 0 in here and a 0 in there, that's all going to make that 0. So let's choose x equals 0. So that'll be 0, that'll be 0, so I'll have 2 is equal to, put a 0 in here, would be negative 1, 0 in here would be negative 2, multiply those together, you get 2a, and that would be 0, that would be 0, so we have a is equal to 1. Okay, next thing, let's say that x equals, okay, let's get rid of this one and solve for the b. So let's have the x minus 2. So let's say x equals 2. So when I plug a 2 in here, 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Minus 4 plus 2. 12 minus 4 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. So we have 10 is equal to, plug a 2 in here, makes us 0. Plug a 2 in here, so we'd have 2. And 2 minus 1 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. So we have 2b, and that would be a 0 there as well. So we get b is equal to 5. Okay, and then the c part here, let's get rid of these here. So I'm going to say x equals 1. So 1 squared is 1, times 3 is 3, 3 minus 2 is 1, 1 plus 2 is 3. Plug a 1 in here, that's 0. Plug a 1 in here, that's 0. So those cancel out. Here I have 1 minus 2 would be negative 1, times 1 is negative 1, so negative 1c. So I get c is equal to negative 3. Okay, so therefore I know my answer is going to be a, which is 1 over x. Oh, first of all, I remember this 1 up here, right? So 1 plus, okay, 1 over x plus b, which is 5 over x minus 2, plus my c, which is negative 3 over x minus 1. And there's the answer for number 18. Okay, with number 19, we have to separate this out. So remember, if we have a linear and it's squared, we have to write the x and the x squared. And then with a quadratic, we have to make this a linear, so cx plus d. Okay, so we have to find a, b, c, and d in these here. So if we solve it here, multiplied by x squared and x squared plus 5. Those both cancel out here, so I'll have negative 3. Right here I have a times x squared plus 5. Here I have b times x squared plus 5. And here I have that cx plus d multiplied by x squared. Okay, now to solve these, I notice x squared and x here, so first thing I'm going to use is x equals 0. So I have negative 3 is equal to, this would be 0, that would be 0, so 0 squared plus 5 is 5, 5b. So b is equal to negative 3/5. Okay, now from here, it gets a little bit more complicated because nothing else cancels out, right? It's because this is an imaginary number here, so it doesn't really work. So we're going to use any numbers at all. You can choose any numbers to get 3 equations, okay? I do know that b is negative 3/5. I can put that in there. I'm going to use 1, negative 1, and 2, okay? So let's say that x equals 1. Plug a 1 here for all these x's. I'd be left with negative 3 is equal to 6a minus 3.6, because I'm taking it, right? Taking this 1 times that is 6, and then multiplying it by this would be this. You can say 18/5 as well, either way is okay. And then 1 squared and 1 there would be plus c plus d. If I get this in the right form, I have 6a plus c plus d, and I'm going to add this over here, so it's equal to 0.6. So there's one of my equations that I'm going to solve. I'm going to have to get, since I have 3 variables, I need 3 equations. So I'm going to pick 2 other numbers yet. Okay, so let's say x equals negative 1. Plugging negative 1 in here for all these x's, I have negative 3 here equals negative 6a minus 3.6 plus c minus d. So when you take negative 1, plug it in for all these here, you get all these answers. Okay, getting it in the right form. Okay, have these here. If I add this over here, I get 0.6 again. There's my second equation I'm going to put with this. And then I use another x. I just chose 2. You really use whatever. So I'd have negative 3. And plugging a 2 into all this here gives me 18a. Plugging a 2 in here before 9 multiplied by this would be negative 5.4. Plugging a 2 in here for all this, I get plus 4c plus 2d. Okay, getting it in the right form, 18a plus 4c plus 2d, add this over the other side is equal to 2.4. Okay, so now we have 3 equations, 3 variables. You need to solve those. Okay, so you can use substitution, elimination, graphing, echelon form, reduced row echelon form, Cramer's rule with the determinants, the inverse. You can use whatever you want. Okay, and you can use Desmos. You don't have to work them out. So using Desmos, I used reduced row echelon form. I made a 3 by 4 matrix and put it in reduced row echelon form, and I got that a is equal to 0. The second number there, the c, is equal to 3/5, and the third number, the d, is equal to 0. Okay, so to put this into an answer for us, okay, we know it's going to be the a, which is 0 over x, which kind of just cancels out because it's 0. The b, we said, was negative 3/5. And that's an x squared there. And our c was 3/5, so 3/5 right there. So you can say 3 over 5. And the d was a 0, so I don't have to put plus 0 there, so I can just put 3 there. Okay, but it would be like plus 0 there. All right, there's your answer. So negative 3 over 5x plus 3x over 5 times x squared plus 5. Okay, number 20. We'll separate into some number divided by x plus 1 plus some number, since this is a quadratic, we have to put a linear factor up there. Okay, so we're going to multiply everything by x plus 1 and x squared plus 2. Those cancel. I have 2x plus 1 is equal to a times x squared plus 2 plus the bx plus c times the x plus 1. Okay, so that's our equation we need to solve. So first thing I notice, this is an x plus 1, so let's make x equal negative 1. So plugging in negative 1 would be negative 2 plus 1 would be negative 1, and negative 1 squared is 1 would be 3a, and that'd be a 0. So I get a is equal to negative 1/3. Okay, so I got my a. A is negative 1/3. Okay, from here, I'm going to use x equals 0. Because what happens here is that gets rid of the b term but leaves the c term. So 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. Plug in is 0 here, be 2 times negative 1/3 would be negative 2/3. Plug in a 0 here. 0 plus 1 is 1, but that would be 0 there, so I'd just be left with the c. So in adding that over, I get c is equal to 5/3. Okay, then here, once I know two of the variables, to find the third, I can just use any number at all. So I just chose x equals 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3. And I can put the c as the 5/3, so I can put that in for the c there. Okay, so when I put in a 1 in here, this gives me an answer of negative 1. Plug in a 1 for the here, be a b, plus your c of 5/3, and 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay, so this would be 3 is equal to negative 1 plus 2b plus 10/3. Okay, distributing that through. I'm going to combine like terms together and then subtract it over and divide by 2. I get b is equal to 1/3. Okay, so my answer is my a, which is negative 1/3, plus, and here you can write it as 5/3 x plus 1/3 divided by x squared plus 2, or since they're both divided by 3, you can bring that 3 to the bottom. So you could say 5x plus 1 divided by 3 like that. Either one is okay. Okay, number 23, we're going to, at the end, get a lot of decimal answers here, but that's okay. Okay, so we're going to separate this into a over x plus b over our 2x plus 1 plus our c x plus d, since this is a quadratic, of 3x squared plus 4. Okay, so to solve this equation, multiply by x, 2x plus 1, and 3x squared plus 4. Distribute it through. I have 1 equals a times 2x plus 1 times 3x squared plus 4, plus b times the x times the 3x squared plus 4, plus the cx plus d times the x times the 2x plus 1. Okay? Looks like a great equation here, doesn't it? Okay, so next. I'm going to notice I have just x's in here, right? So I'm going to say that x is equal to 0, and that will make this 0, this whole term 0, and this whole term 0. So I'll have 1 is equal to, and if I plug 0 in here, I get 1, plug a 0 in here, I get 4. 1 times 4 times a is 4a. Therefore, a is equal to 1/4. Okay? Now, I also notice this term here, if I set this equal to 0, I get negative 1/2. So let's say that x is equal to negative 1/2. And in doing so, I get 1 here. Putting negative 1/2 in here makes this 0. Putting negative 1/2 here makes this 0. If I put a negative 1/2 in here, it comes up to be 19/8 times b. Okay, multiplying by the reciprocal, I get b is equal to negative 8 over 19. Okay, so I got my a and I have my b. Now to find c and d, we can't really get anything else eliminated here, right? Because that's an imaginary, so I can't really get rid of that. So I'm going to have to make a system of equations. So to do that, I'm just going to pick some random numbers. I'm going to say like x equals 1. Okay, I'm going to plug them in here for all the x's. I also know my a is a 1/4. I also know my b is a negative 8 over 19. Okay, now I'm going to kind of do this quickly, but you'd have to plug them in. I've kind of already done the work. So I'll have 1 is equal to, plug a 1 in here for all these numbers here with the 1/4, and you get 5.25. And I plug a 1 in here for all these numbers and multiply it by this b. You get negative 56 over 19. And you plug in a 1 here for all these x's here. You'll get 3c plus 3d. Okay, now kind of getting this in the form that we want, we know that 3c plus 3d, if I combine these like terms together and take it over the other side, it's going to equal negative 99 over 76. Okay, so there's one equation we can use. Okay, now the other equation, I'm just going to use negative 1. Okay, you really can use whatever number you want there. Okay, so use negative 1 here. So when I plug that in, I'll have 1. Plug in a negative 1 for all these with the 1/4. You get negative 1.75. Plug in a negative 1 here with this b. You get 56 over 19. And when you plug negative 1 in here for all with all of these numbers, you'll get negative c plus a d. Okay, make sure you do that. Make sure you plug it in and do that. Okay, so when I get this, I have negative c plus d, and if I combine these and subtract it over the other side, I have negative 15 over 76. So there's my second equation. So we have two equations here to use with two variables. We're going to put those together. You can use substitution, elimination, graphing, echelon form, reduced row echelon form, Cramer's rule with matrices, inverse equation with matrices, whatever you choose. Okay, I plugged it in with reduced row echelon form. But anyway, you get out of this that c is equal to negative 9 over 76, and d is equal to negative 6 over 19. Okay, so therefore our answer, okay, is going to be a over, so a is 1/4 over x, so we have 1 over 4x, plus my b is negative 8 over 19, okay, so negative 8 over 19 times that 2x plus 1. Okay, now the c part, I'm fine if you do it like this, so negative 9 over 76 x plus negative 6 over 19 over 3x squared plus 4. Okay, the way you're going to see it in your back of your book, though, if you check the back of your book, is they're going to put these denominators down here. So they're going to have it as 1 over 4x plus negative 8 over 19 times this. And then they're going to say that this number right here is the same thing as negative 24 over 76, so you can get the same denominator. Okay, so they would say negative 9x minus 24 over the common denominator of 76 times that 3x squared plus 4. Okay, so either one of these answers is totally fine right there. All right, come ready to ask some questions in class.